Okay, so today we're going to talk about Revolve. Let's open up a new file. I go to Parts, and first make sure the measurement is an inch for this file. And second, we're going to name our file. This is going to be a vase, our vase. My bad. That should have been VASE. Okay. All right. So far we talked about how to build a geometry, a 3D geometry with extrusion. Today I will be covering Revolve, which is basically wrapping around the axis of rotation. So there are products that have a center axis, for example, water bottles, or let's say oil bottles. A lot of bottles they have a center of axis. For this lesson, we're looking at flower vase. If you look at this, there's a center of axis, and wherever you cut these, the quarter is the unique shape, but it's actually mirrored on the other way. So the cross section has the same shape on the right and the left side. Look at all of these. So the only unique shape is this. It's on the right side. The left is just a mirror of it. So we only need to follow one side, have our axis line, and tell the computer to revolve it around that axis. Okay, so let's pick one to build today. This looks like a good one. I leave this in your folder so you guys have access to it. I click and drag it onto my desktop. Okay, now we go to our Solidworks. Let's turn on all of our planes to make things easier. So if we were to build this vase, the base was going to sit on the top plane, right? So it's going to be from here going up. It needs to rotate somewhere around here. So it's optional for us to either build our sketch, our side view sketch, either on the right plane or the front plane. They will both work. So let's start with the front plane in this case. There's the front plane. I go under Sketch tab, I click Sketch, and it shows this in front of us. Let's say, so every time you do a revolve, or you know you're going to build a revolve, the first thing you do is you put down a center line, because you need an axis for the center for that shape to revolve around. Click on the center line, always start at the origin, and you go up. Now press escape to come out of this line. Then we're going to measure our center line. So a vase would be about 12-inch tall. Could be shorter or taller. We're doing 12-inch for this one. And now let's look at our image and see what it looks like. So it looks like there's a flat bottom. There is almost like an elliptical, like a very thin ellipse. There's like a small curve coming out, almost flattening here, and then there's another curve, definitely flat on the top, and it closes. So notice the top is a lot smaller, maybe half the size of the bottom. So let's go with that measurement. And then start with the flat base, using the flat base here. For the curved part, there are two options. We can either use arc or spline. I'm going to show you both ways of using. Let's go on the arc tool. There are three options under arc tool. I'm going to use the center arc tool. I click on so with the center arc tool, there's 3 points that you're going to click. First one is the center. Second one is the start of your arc. Third one is the end of your arc. So we're going to put the center right on top of our center line. First point is going to be where the end of our line is. So now it's starting out. Okay. This looks about right. Maybe a little bit less. Okay. That was our third point. So I have this arc. I can measure it. So it's 3.14. We're just going to do 3 to make it easier. Also measure the bottom. Let's make this 1.75. Okay. Going back and forth. So I'm looking at this. So we have this. And there's like a smooth curve and then like a bigger curve here. So I think it's easier for me to build the top for half of that and then worry about these curves. I'm going to build this top. It's a straight line. It comes down. Let's measure this. Let's put it at 1 inch. It's still smaller than our base. And we need to make sure this is vertical. It says vertical, so it's okay. Right? Next, we need to connect this. This is like an arc that connects. So let's go back, look at our shape. So from here, it's kind of like almost a straight. It's like a small curve. And then it smooths out to here. So for this portion, it's easier to use a spline. And then from here to here, I'm going to use another arc. So let's try that. So far we've used the 3-point arc. We're going to do a spline here. This is a spline tool. I click once here and once try to line up with that. So splines can be very tricky to control. So I recommend to put as minimum points as possible. So I just did 2 points. I'm going to press escape to come out of it. I know it looks hard, but we can always come in and edit this. When you click on this line, these two handles show up. The diamond, if you click and drag, changes the angle. The arrowhead changes the extension. Okay? So with those two, you can basically make your arc look right. Because this is coming from a vertical line, I can click on this. On the left, click vertical. So now it's going vertical. Same thing with this one. We're going to connect it to an arc, right? So we're going to do, actually I'm not going to do vertical with this one because it doesn't go really flat. There's like a curve. So I'm going to put an arc in there. Let's go under our arcs. There is something called a 3-point arc. A 3-point arc has 3 points. So we start with the start of the arc. Second one would be the end of the arc. Third one would be the radius. So here's our first point, our second point. As you see, this is going to be our third point. Okay. All right. So now I need to make sure this is smooth. It looks bumpy. This looks better, but that looks bumpy. One way to actually make these smooth, you can set these to tangent to each other. I click the first arc, hold shift, click the second. And here's on the left, you have the tangent option. Select it. So now it's tangent. Same thing with this. We click spline, click the arc, set tangent. So now if you look at it, it's a lot smoother. Okay. Let me go back to my image. Let's see, I think this image was a little bit taller. So if I do a portion, this portion I think is a lot taller than what I have. You guys see I have like a really quick turnaround. So let's move this down. There we go. So now it's like a easier transition. Looks better. Let me go down with this one as well a little bit. Okay. Right, so looks good. One side is done, but our sketch is open. As you can see, we have just one line up in the air. So we need to finish our sketch and close a path. I go to the line tool, click this, come to the center, and come over the center line. Notice there is a center line, but because it's dotted, it doesn't count as a line to close the geometry. So I would have to come over to the solid line, go right there where that yellow dot shows. I know they're intersecting. I select and escape. So on the newer versions of Solidworks, every time you have a closed path, the color changes to a dark blue or maybe like a gray color. That's how you know your path is open or it's closed. You need a closed path to revolve or to do any 3D order. So this looks done. I kind of want to do a smoother top for whatever reason. Okay, that looks better to me. Okay, let me put some measurements on these. So this is also an arc. This is 13. I do 13.8, so it's more viewable. This height we can measure, and also this height we can measure. Let's do 1.3 or maybe 1.25, so it's like 1.25. Okay, and also maybe this height. Oh, because I have that and I have this is overdoing it. So we cancel that. Now the width, 3. Okay, now we have it all black, so the whole sketch is defined and we can revolve it. Come out of the sketch mode. Our sketch one shows here. We know the sketch is done. We can rotate and look at it. It's half. And now we go under features, select the second option, which is revolve. To make sure the sketch is selected, I'm going to click revolve, So when I click that, the first question it asks me is, which one's your axis of revolution? It may be that your computer will automatically pick up your dotted line. It may not. So you'll have both options. So whichever line I pick, it will revolve the shape around that. So I click the center one. So now I realize this form is a lot chubbier than what we were looking at. So our form should have been a lot taller, which is okay. So I'll show you guys on the next assignment how to get your form as close as possible to your inspiration. But this is also a way of learning that just eyeballing is not enough. Okay, so I selected the center line and revolve the shape around the center line. If I select this line for axis of rotation, it revolves the shape that way. Any flat line I have, it could act as a center of rotation. So it's important that you know what it's asking for and what you need to choose. Right? Now I come down here. Here it says 360 degrees. So let's go lower with that and see what happens. Okay, so now we are 126. So it's revolving from the sketch going 326 degrees all the way to the side. Okay, let's put this at 90 degrees. So that's revolving 90 degrees. And then we can add a second direction. So like that. This is our second direction. So right now it's at 23. We can go all the way up to 90 if we wanted to, right? So I want you guys to know you don't have to build a full revolve. You can only do portional, like semi-revolves, depending on the need of your geometry. Okay, I'm going to go back to normal 360 degrees because we want the full revolve. There we go, and press OK. Right, so we have our ways. However, if I look inside, I click the section tool on the front. The inside is completely solid. Right, you can't put any flower in this, right? So we need to hollow it out. Let's look at this. To hollow any shape out, there is a feature called shell. Come all the way in the features, almost over the middle, select shell. Okay, so if you select shell without selecting any part of your shape, it would shell out the inside. So I'm going to click show preview. You can see it's previewing you the hollow inside part. This parameter here, this is the wall thickness. So if you look, that is about 0.1. If I go up with it, it's 0.2, 0.3. So it's basically leaving a 0.2 wall all around. However, with the walls, with the base, the top needs to be open. We don't want a closed top. So we're going to come on the top here, where it's blue, it has a face, and select the top. When you do that, it's going to open up whatever face you picked up. So now, as you see, the indicator is right at the edge of this base. 0.3 is really thick, so I'm going to go to 0.15. Okay, that looks about right. You press OK. Right, let's see, that's hollow inside. We can check with this one too. You see that? It's a great way of checking. It's good for you guys to get used to it. Okay. So we have the shape done. One thing I would like to also show you is how to put letters on the outside. Let's say you want to write something. We're going to go to the right plane. Either plane that crosses this will work, right plane or front plane. That's a sketch. Control 8. Okay. To write, you need a baseline to write on top of. When I say write, I mean letter. So let's put a center line, a dotted line basically, that's, there we go. So as you notice, I try not to go to the edges because it will click to the edge. I went outside. Now I'm going to try to center my line where I want my writing to be. So that looks about right. I can always come back and move this around. That's fine. Okay, now that we have this line, I'm going to go up on the top where there's an A. This is their text tool. So click on that. First thing is asking is curve. Basically, what should it write on top of? We're going to pick this. So now our text is going to go on top of this line. So I want you to write your name. I write mine. So I wrote it. It's super tiny. So I need it to be a lot bigger. To make this larger, we go here where it says use document font. Check that and we click font. So it's best to use bold and very open fonts. Basically, you might think of each letter as a sketch. So if they overlap, it's not gonna work. I want to bold. Here's the point. So I'm gonna go to maybe 36. Let's see. Okay, it's still pretty tiny, right? And go back. Let's do 72. That's much better. And go to all caps. All right, that looks good. Now I can center it too because I can see the whole name. Okay, if you want to move and center this, you have to come out of the sketch text. You cannot move your line while you're there. So if I select this line, it doesn't know where to put the text. It drops it down to the base. So I pick this again, check OK. So as you see, each letter is a sketch. For me, it's a close path. Nothing is crossing over. So don't pick scriptive writing. You will have problem trying to extrude those or boss those or cut those. So you want very open and clean text. Now, if I come here, move my line, the whole thing moves. Move this way a bit more. Too much. All right, that's good enough. And maybe lower it there. Okay, it's bothering me. I'm gonna come that way a bit more. Okay, very good. So now I have, this is basically my sketch. I have my sketch. Again, make sure this line is a dotted line. It's not solid. Now I want to extrude this. So if you notice, this sketch is right inside this piece, right? If I extrude, it's going to extrude out from here and come out here. So it's going to be inside my bottle. So let's look at that. Out of the sketch, my sketch is selected. Go into feature, extrusion, and as you see, it's coming from that center. And we don't want that, we just want it to come on top of here, right? So here on the top where it says from, so it says where should it start the extrusion from? From the front, there is sketch plane. It's basically starting at the plane where the sketch is on. But we don't want it to start there. We want it to start right at the edge of this base. So I'm going to go here and click surface or face or plane and select this. So now if you see, it started going out from this edge and it's going 5 inches out. It's too much. It's definitely going to break off. So we're going to go and make it maybe 0.1. Let's see. Okay, that looks much better. All right. And very good. Something to pay attention to. If your piece doesn't come out, it may be that your text is too close to the edges and it's stretching out too much. Or your text is not like a complete sketch for each one of them. Or you may have it go opposite, going backwards. So that could be a possibility. You just have to change direction here. If you click this, it changes direction. Here, sorry. Pay attention to that extrude boss. See, now it's going inside the body. Now it's going outside. Okay. So this looks good. Say okay. And our shape is okay. One more thing to get used to, every time you build a shape, you would not leave any sharp edges. For example, these, because of course it's not useful, it's really rough. So under feature, there is a tool called fillet, which rounds your edges. I click that. At the end of every modeling, you take this step. If I click any edge, you see a right edge, it would give the radius, but the radius is here. So right now it's at 0.1. You can write 0.05 and click here outside and it makes it smaller. You can either select edges or click a whole face. So if I pick this, you see this is the face, and delete the first one. That face has two sides, two edges, so now it's rounding both of those. If yours doesn't work, it may be that this fillet that you picked, the number could be too big or too small. So right now this 0.5 is still working, it's just really small. I could do this one too. Okay, it's working. Okay, here we go. All good. And we're done. Make sure you save your file. And that's about it.